Mau Mau were the militant wing of a growing clamor for political representation and freedom in Kenya. The first attempt to form a countrywide political party began on the 1st of October 1944. This fledgling organization was called the Kenya African Study Union. Harry Thuku was the first chairman, but he soon resigned. There is dispute over Thuku's reason for leaving KASU. Bethwell Ogot says Thuku found the responsibility too heavy. David Anderson states that he walked out in disgust as the militant section of KASU took the initiative. KASU changed its name to the Kenya African Union, KAU, in 1946. Author Lari Massacre writes that many of the organizers were ex-soldiers who fought for the British in Ceylon, Somalia, and Burma during the Second World War. When they returned to Kenya, they were never paid and did not receive recognition for their service, whereas their British counterparts were awarded medals and received land, sometimes from the Kenyan veterans. The failure of KAU to attain any significant reforms or redress of grievances from the colonial authorities shifted the political initiative to younger and more militant figures within the native Kenyan trade union movement, among the squatters on the settler estates in the Rift Valley and in KAU branches in Nairobi and the Kikuyu districts of Central Province. Around 1943, residents of Olengaron settlement radicalized the traditional practice of oathing and extended oathing to women and children. By the mid-1950s, 90% of Kikuyu, Embu, and Meru were oathed. On the 3rd of October 1952, Mau Mau claimed their first European victim when they stabbed a woman to death near her home in Thika. 6 days later, on the 9th of October, Senior Chief Waruhiu was shot dead in broad daylight in his car, which was an important blow against the colonial government. Waruhiu had been one of the strongest supporters of the British presence in Kenya. His assassination gave Bering the final impetus to request permission from the colonial office to declare a state of emergency. The Mau Mau attacks were mostly well organized and planned. The insurgents' lack of heavy weaponry and the heavily entrenched police and home guard positions meant that Mau Mau attacks were restricted to nighttime and where loyalist positions were weak. When attacks did commence, they were fast and brutal, as insurgents were easily able to identify loyalists because they were often local to those communities themselves. The Lari Massacre was by comparison rather outstanding, and in contrast to regular Mau Mau strikes, which more often than not targeted only loyalists without such massive civilian casualties. Even the attack upon Lari, in the view of the rebel commanders, was strategic and specific. The Mau Mau command, contrary to the Home Guard, who were stigmatized as the running dogs of British imperialism, were relatively well educated. General Gatonga had previously been a respected and well-read Christian teacher in his local Kikuyu community. He was known to meticulously record his attacks in a series of 5 notebooks, which when executed were often swift and strategic, targeting loyalist community leaders he had previously known as a teacher. The Mau Mau military strategy was mainly guerrilla attacks launched under the cover of dark. They used stolen weapons such as guns, as well as weapons such as machetes and bows and arrows in their attacks. In a few limited cases, they also deployed biological weapons. Women formed a core part of the Mau Mau, especially in maintaining supply lines. Initially able to avoid the suspicion, they moved through colonial spaces and between Mau Mau hideouts and strongholds to deliver vital supplies and services to guerrilla fighters, including food, ammunition, medical care, and of course, information. An unknown number also fought in the war, with the most high-ranking being Field Marshal Muthoni.